News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users, on demand on iTunes, on demand on YouTube, and in 12 million additional households, thanks to the distribution of our friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio. I'm your host, Gary Baumgarten. I have three subjects that I am bringing to the table for us to discuss today. The first one has to do with the two shootings that occurred, one in an Omaha, Nebraska mall where 8 people died, other in two Christian centers, a church and a Christian center, where I believe a total of 5 people have died. And I want to discuss the way the news media approaches these kinds of events. Not that they can't be covered, of course, they must be covered, but should they be covered the way they are, breathlessly, with breaking news and interrupting regular news coverage, wall-to-wall coverage, and in-depth look at the history of the killers. You know, with the guy in Omaha, in his suicide note, he said, "Now I'm going to be famous," and indeed, you know, he is correct in that. Secondly, I want to talk about Michael Vick, the NFL player, National Football League player here in the United States, who was convicted of organizing dog fights, pit bulls, in which the dogs, some of them died. He has been sentenced to 23 months in prison. Some people would say that's an inordinately long sentence for an animal's death, for goodness sakes. Others would say, are you kidding me? Just 2 years in prison? And when he is released from prison, ought he be allowed to continue to play in the NFL? The third thing we're going to talk about is a proposal by Mike Huckabee, who is a candidate for president of the United States. Mike Huckabee suggests that if he is president, people who live in the United States but who have dual citizenship ought not, he believes, to be allowed to vote in elections in the other country. You know, that's not so unusual that people vote by mail, absentee ballot, or they go to their consulate or embassy and they vote in some cases if they have dual citizenship. And I guess Huckabee is fearful that that creates for dual loyalties. Still, I will suggest to you that there are members of our own armed forces who are fighting in Iraq, putting their lives on the line under the stars and stripes, who are not citizens of the United States of America, and yet we allow them to go fight on behalf of the United States of America. So those are the three topics. Boaz, I want to bring you into this conversation and ask you about the first issue, your feeling about how the news media covers these mass murders. You know, I would not be surprised if the police suggest at a certain point that the second killings, the second shootings in Colorado were spurred by the news coverage of the first shootings in Omaha. And certainly it's not something that we can ignore when somebody walks into a shopping mall and fatally shoots 8 people, and I forget how many other people were injured. I mean, this is a major tragedy that occurs. But should we be giving it the amount of coverage that we are giving it, and should we be looking so microscopically at the individual who was behind this all, the trigger man? Because it seems to me, you know, prima facie, looking at his suicide note, that he was at least in part spurred to do this. Obviously, he was an extremely troubled young man. He might have done it anyway, but part of his motivation appears to have been the fact that he was going to get some notoriety for what he was doing.
Well, Gary, first of all, good evening to you and good evening to everyone here on News Talk Online on Paltalk.com. You know, Gary, obviously there are some people that will actually go do such horrific acts of murder, you know, to hear, you know, to gain some recognition in some very sick fashion. There are people that will do that, but you know, I don't think it's fair, actually. And I know I've been I have said just the opposite in the past when we talk about the media, Gary. But I don't think it's fair to blame the media for the act of what one person is doing. Now, having said that, the way the media covers these things, I think the coverage at times is done probably more so for ratings. You know, I'm not trying, Gary. I'm not trying to say that the media does it for the ratings, but sometimes it is that could be one of the factors involved. But I will say this, Gary. I think we don't hear enough positive things in the media today. We hear a lot of negative. I mean, if you're looking at balance between the two, there's a heck of a lot more negative going on in the media than positive. Now, is that an indication that there's more negative in the world than positive? I don't know. I'm not about to take the media as a point of measurement to how much good and bad there is in the world. But I will say that at times the media does overdo it sometimes. But to go ahead and blame the media to connect one shooting to another because the second shooter heard the story of the first shooter, so he wanted to do it, or he or she wanted to do it also to be heard in the news, I think that's going a bit too far, and that's not fair to the media, in my opinion.
Well, I didn't blame the news media, Boaz, at all.
No, I didn't say you did, Gary. I just felt that it was
People
like
who
that.
the people who did these heinous crimes, horrendous crimes, are responsible for their actions. But
Absolutely.
but I'm saying that perhaps we can down our coverage a little bit so that people don't find that a motivation for committing these crimes. You know, there was a time when I was working at CNN where we had a rule, and that rule was if there is a bomb threat, we don't cover it. Now that has changed in this post 9/11 world. When there's a bomb threat that causes a particular disruption or whatever, you know, depending on the magnitude of the threat, it is now reported. But there was a time when many media outlets had a hard and fast rule that they didn't cover bomb threats because they didn't want to motivate other people to commit bomb threats. You know, they call it a bomb threat and they run home and they watch television to see the bomb threat and people evacuated and oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, they get all excited about that. So it's not particularly out of the realm of the kinds of discussions that occur in newsrooms, not just in the United States but around the world, how to approach this type of an event. And again, I'm not suggesting that the Omaha Mall shooting ought not to have been covered. Of course it should have been covered. But when we have these kinds of shootings, how much attention do we need to give to the person who pulled the trigger? Is it really that important so that his name becomes a household name for at least a short period of time? That he can rest assured that in his death there will be notoriety